All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review and the continuation of our BCBA task list series. Today we're continuing with behavior change procedures and group contingencies. Group contingencies are very straightforward. It's a very simple idea where we are applying our consequence contingencies not to just an individual, but a group of individuals. So let's not make it more complicated than that. We're going to look at the three main types of contingencies and break it down in a simple way. As always, subscribe if you aren't already for all of our updates. We would really appreciate it. Also, check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shoutout. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. So, group contingencies. Group contingencies involve applying reinforcement or punishment, but typically we're using reinforcement contingencies to a group of individuals. For the sake of what we're doing, consider most group contingencies reinforcement based in ABA. Can you use other contingencies? Absolutely. The main idea is we are applying our typical contingencies. If you do this, then this happens, but not to a person, but a group of people. Now, group contingencies are heavily researched, they're empirical, and they can be used in a variety of situations. So you can feel free to get creative with using contingencies. Group contingencies typically reinforced based on one of the following. We have three main ideas. We have reinforcement delivered based on the behavior of one member. We have reinforcement delivered based on the behavior of part of the group. So either the individual or a sample of the group. And then the behavior of the whole group all have to complete the contingency. That is our interdependent. The main difference here is with an independent contingency, each person in the group is responsible for meeting the criterion. The dependent contingency, the whole group is relying on one person or a set of people to meet that criterion. So let's get into each one more specifically. If we think of independent group contingencies, this is when you have a group of learners or people, you set a criterion, and each member is responsible for their own contingency. So the contingency applies to the members of the group who meet the criterion. So if you have 5 people in a group, each of those 5 people must meet the criterion to gain reinforcement. They're all responsible for their own behavior. If you look at a dependent group contingency, also called a hero procedure, this applies to a select member or certain members of the group. So if you have 5 members of your group, and we would say these 2 members must meet the criterion, so the whole group gets reinforcement. That's the dependent group contingency. It can be reliant on one person, 2 people, a sample of the group. The idea is the whole group is reliant on a subset or sample of that group. That's why it's called the hero procedure. Now, if you're going to use a dependent group contingency, you need to be careful because that entire group is reliant on certain people to gain reinforcement. If those people don't meet the criterion, the whole group suffers. So you've got to be careful with the social ramifications of using something like a dependent group contingency or using a, as we say, hero procedure. And then an interdependent group contingency. So the contingency applies to an entire group. Every member of the group must meet the criterion. So if we have 5 group members, every member must meet that criterion for the whole group to get reinforced. If one member doesn't meet the criterion, nobody gets reinforced. Here, we're creating a sense of team because the whole team must respond, must engage with the criterion, and meet that criterion so the whole team wins. Similar to that hero procedure, there's going to be social pressure. But instead of just being on a spotlight or a spotlight on one or a sample of people, the whole team needs it. So this might encourage teamwork. It might encourage working together. But if one individual misses out on the criterion, again, we've got to consider the social ramifications of these group contingencies. So when deciding or thinking about group contingencies, how are we going to implement those contingencies? Well, one, you want to choose an effective reward. Remember, this is just like a regular contingency for an individual, except for a group. And so if the reinforcement isn't right, not going to be effective. It's harder to get an effective reward because we're working with more people. Now, the best way, obviously, would be personal preference assessments for each individual, and each individual gets their own preferred reinforcer. But a lot of times with group contingencies, we don't have the resources or time to do that. And so we might use reinforcement menus where there's a select few reinforcers that can be chosen, or we might just do ongoing generalized condition reinforcers as the reward. The idea is something that's going to be effective for each member of the group to the fullest extent possible. We also want to determine the behavior of interest. So this is just like writing a plan for an individual, but now we're writing it for the group. We've got to set a criterion. So what are we trying to achieve? How is the group or the individual in the group going to gain that reward? We want to use in conjunction with other strategies, just like punishment, just like extinction, and of course reinforcement. We're always combining, mixing, and matching interventions to get the best outcomes. You want to select the group contingency appropriate for the group, meaning if you have a group of learners where social pressure is a big deal, you want to be careful how you may implement, let's say, a hero procedure. Because if that one person or that sample of people don't achieve the goal, that backlash might be intense. So you've got to really consider who are the members of your group and how are they going to be successful. What contingency is going to be successful for them? And then don't forget to monitor both individual and group performance. Yes, it's a group contingency, but we're still trying to accomplish something. In an ABA, right, each person or each learner is their own control. They're their own subject. And so we want to not lose sight of the fact that we need individual data for every single learner. So group contingencies can be challenging if you don't have resources, if you don't have time, but they can also assist if you don't have resources, if you don't have time. Bottom line is, like every other intervention we've gone over, like every other strategy, it's all dependent on your needs, your goals, and the resources available to you at that time. All right, thanks for watching. Very easy video today. Very straightforward concept. Should not be too challenging for you. The hardest part is discriminating between the three types. Once you have that down, it's pretty self-explanatory. So keep at it, keep working hard, keep going through it. Be sure to subscribe for all of our updates. Check out our website for all of our study materials. When you pass, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.